can be spatially enabled through an add-on called PostGIS, which also is open source.
So this is something you are going to use in this course?
In the exercises, you will be using a PostgreSQL database. The PostgreSQL does not have a built-in graphical user interface. Instead, you can choose from a few available ones. This is an example of the web-based graphical interface. So you use your web server to control the database. And this is what it might look like. Then we have the access, which I think most of you have come across at some time or another.
Yes, it's included in some of the Microsoft's Office packages.
It's included in the Office package. It does not follow the database standard very well. Actually, I think it's the worst of following the database standard. And it should only be used in smaller projects, because this is not a multi-user database. It's a personal database.
Okay, so only one user at a time.
And you cannot communicate with it like you can do with the larger database over the network. You have to have physical access to it.
So this means that you should only use it if you are storing data that you know that no one apart from yourself is going to use, more or less.
More or less, yeah.
But I mean, you could create data in one database and export it to another database. So, yeah.
That usually works. This is an example of what access might look like. This is actually a geodatabase, which we'll get back to in later lectures.
But we can just stop here for a second and just see that most database systems today, they have like a graphical interface where you, so this means that you could communicate through graphics. You could click and write just small things in tables and things like this.
And especially Access has a lot of wizards. You don't actually have to write any SQL usually.
Okay.
You can just use the wizards to obtain some information. So in that sense, Access might be a little bit easier if you're not familiar with databases.
But also if you're using databases like MySQL, they also has a graphical interface. You don't have to write everything in SQL, do you?
It's the same thing as for PostgreSQL. You have to add on a graphical interface, but they are available, so.
Okay.
So you can use a graphical interface, or you can just use the shell or the DOS prompt. It depends on your preference. Here we have the SQL server from Microsoft. Runs on Windows only, just like the Access. Forgot to mention that. SQL Server is known for its ease of use, low cost, and high performance. It's quite a lot more cheap than the Oracle database, actually. But you get almost the same feature set. The SQL Server can be spatially enabled through third-party software, like, for instance, ArcSDE.
Yeah, ArcSDE and similar products from Intergraph and MapInfo, they're actually working not only on SQL Server, they're working also on standard Oracle and DB2 and some other of the most common commonplace.
Well, ArcSDE also works on other types, not just the SQL Server.
Yeah.
This is an example of the graphical interface from the SQL Server. To the left, you have the different databases that you have defined, and you can list the tables and so on. And summary. Well, relational databases are the most common. The other ones are the hierarchical, the network, and the object-oriented. For the relational databases, you use the primary key and the foreign key to connect different tables together. So you make a relation between them through the keys. And indexes will speed up the queries, but do not use them too much because they will also make the updates or the changes to the database a little bit slower. Also, the null is not a value, but an indicator that there is no value, rather. And this is very important because you cannot make a comparison, like say, choose something that's a little bit more than null. That makes no sense. Null is nothing, so you can either check if it's null or not, nothing else. And keeping the database integrity is very important, and using transaction is one way of upholding this integrity. And that's all.
Yeah. So in this course we have mainly talked about the databases and some technical issues about the databases. And now we will, in the coming 2 lectures, we will more talk about what type of data we are going to store in these databases. So we'll look at a bit more from, we could say, an application point of view.
And then we'll get back to the SQL language in another lecture.
Okay. So welcome back, and thank you all for listening today.
Thank you.